fine Monday afternoon. We're back, a couple of jerks in a circle. Not really.
Hi.
How you guys doing?
What up? What up?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited. We're big. This is a big day. We're going to be interviewing Donald Trump on the podcast. He said one more after Rogan. Just one more. We're going to be really excited. Independent media, right? Independent media. That's where we're going to get to the real truths that you don't hear on mainstream. We're going to ask him tough questions, like, did it hurt when you fell from heaven? How big that hog? Why is everyone so mean? We're going to get to all those questions and more, so stay tuned. Really excited to talk to former President Trump.
How do you manage an entire business empire and the most successful political career in America, sir? How do you do it?
Yeah, exactly. Do you ever get insecure? Do you ever feel like the whole world's against you? All sorts of stuff like that. Really exciting.
Do you ever feel like breaking down? Do you ever feel out of place?
That's right. Get your
like
eyeliner
someone who's been kicked around deep inside, you're bleeding. I think that's a Simple Plan song.
I would love the pop punk presidency. That would be a great new era for Trump.
Yep. Absolutely. Honestly, that's what we need. We need Trump to DJT to go pop punk. He needs to spin it.
I know you guys talked about it, but that fucking interview was so terrible. Holy shit. Oh my God. It was so fucking embarrassing. And honestly, I was like, this is the death of podcasts. I was like, this shit like this, like it got like 1 billion views a minute or whatever like that. But I was watching it and I was like, damn, like this shit, like podcasts are so fucking cooked. Like all they are is fucking dick suck sessions with like these people. Like you'll see a harder interview from any network. Like even Fox.
Do you think it's actually
give a harder
possible?
Interview.
I was thinking about this because obviously I think Joe Rogan did a pretty terrible job conducting that interview. He didn't push back enough. He wasn't aggressive enough. If you're going to interview a subject like Donald Trump, you have to do it in a way that makes it worthwhile. Frankly, if the person you're going to interview rambles that much. But do you think it's even possible at this point to really interview Trump in a way that would be worthwhile, Griffin? Because I mean, he clearly is incapable of just answering a question if he doesn't want to answer it. He will just start talking about whatever he wants to talk about, and then he's not even going to let you get in there to shut it down. It's just like we're going down whatever road you want.
Yeah, he's going to do that no matter what. But like, you don't have to like be a total like bitch to him and like just like totally suck up to him. I mean, it's embarrassing. It's like, Rogan, like you are like one of the most popular people on the planet. Like you don't need anything from this guy. Like you're making this guy more than he's making you. But yeah, it's like Trump has this like ability to turn like all these like rightoids into like these like blushing little schoolgirls. Like it's like I've never seen Rogan so blushing. It's so
what is crazy about it is that they all want to be him. They all want to be him. They all want to be the successful con man that's able to rise above the ranks. They all see so much of themselves in him. That's how they were able to build the momentum that they have. And the thing that I think is even more interesting about Rogan is he started to confess that his career is falling off, and that's why he had Donald Trump on, right? Like, I can't remember
his relevance. I would say his relevance as far as like.
I mean, I think if you're that rich, your relevance is your career. That's what you're, going after, right?
I just mean like his career. It's not like Spotify is refusing to sign another contract with him. He's doing fine career-wise.
Fair enough. I guess I'll take your point. Relevance is a better word. His impact on popular culture, I think, is waning for sure, and that's why he had to do this. But he was talking to, I can't remember who it was, some sycophant that he had on after Donald Trump's election to make himself feel better. He's like, I knew I was going to be less famous when I signed the Spotify deal. I was like, sign me up. I can't wait to be less famous. And it's like, I know your lizard brain doesn't work like that. I know that's an obvious cope confession. You are miserable now that you've got guys like Theo Vaughn, you've got guys like Tim Dillon, you've got the Andrew Schultz Flagrant One crowd, and now you're chasing them. You built these guys. This is something I would like to get your perspective on, Griffin, because you actually followed the comedy scene a little bit. Obviously, they're the guys. There's two classes of comedians that came out of the Joe Rogan orbit, right? The guys that Joe Rogan just shout out that never had any talent. I'm talking about Brendan Schaub, Ari Shaffir, the like worst of the worst yes men that just got on Joe Rogan's show, and that's how they built their entire career, just being Joe Rogan's stroke off boys. But there was a second generation of people who knew that they were getting an opportunity of a lifetime going on Joe Rogan, and they capitalized on it tremendously. And I'm thinking specifically of Andrew Schultz, who went from being on like Guy Code on MTV to being a serious force in the podcasting world, right? And then you have guys like Tim Dillon, who was doing face swaps with Meghan McCain, to being one of the biggest acts in stand-up comedy right now. You have Theo Von, who I think is the funniest out of all three of those guys, and his career is exploding. Do you think that it's really does weigh on Joe now that he's the one that's chomping at their heels, even though he kind of, in his mind, probably made them, or at least gave them the runway to take off?
I think there could be a little bit of that. What's interesting is like these are all like comedians doing podcasts, and like none of them are very funny. But I would say that like at least like the Andrew Schultz and like the Theo Vons, like they try to be like a little funny and crack jokes. Like Joe just like is asking questions. Like he's like rarely trying to like make a joke or like be funny. So like the Joe Rogan podcast has strayed so far from like comedy or whatever, except like maybe like they'll take acid once every couple of years and like do a show. But like
whenever Duncan Trussell comes on, it's fun.
It's rarely comedy now, you know.
That's a good point.
There's that angle to it, but ultimately I think with Joe, he's just like one of those guys that gets his information from like Instagram like memes and stuff. Like I even think for when he watches like good shows that he's mentioned in the past, like it's from like a meme on Instagram or whatever. And because all the memes have just started to get more and more right wing, like his brain has just started to get more and more right wing too. And it's like, for the interview itself, I don't even know. It's like even if he did an interview that wasn't like, oh, good politics, like Joe's obsessed with the trans issue, and I don't even think he brought it up. It's like he could have asked like actual
same
questions.
With the vaccine issue.
Or the vaccine issue. Like
he spent the last 4 years asking, like, you know, dragging his audience down that rabbit hole, and then he has Trump on, the guy who's responsible for Operation Warp Speed, the guy who did the lockdowns, and he can't even bother to bring it up a single time. And it's like, I don't give a shit about that. I also wouldn't probably ask Trump about that if I had him on. But Joe Rogan's the one who claims to care about that more than anyone else. Like he really has made that a huge focus of his show, and to not even ask a single tough question of the guy responsible for all of that, like it's wild.
I mean, he's just folded on everything that he supposedly stood for all of the things that he supposedly believed in, right? And he has gone total right wing, you know, soy boy, right? Like one of the things that I think really attracted people to 100%. He's soft. We've talked about how the beginning of the end for Joe Rogan, Gavin and I mocked him relentlessly for this. He was like, I think people just don't, you know, they're just, their lives are a little too easy. You know, they don't suffer enough. And we're like, you live on a compound in Austin, Texas, where everything is catered to you hand and foot. You have a bunch of what?
Wasn't he born rich too? It's not like he like rose from
he wasn't born rich. Joe Rogan actually, I think his dad beat the shit out of his mom, and he had a rough childhood. Yeah.
Okay, I thought he was a nepo baby.
No, he's not a nepo baby. You can't take the one thing I will give to Joe is that he kind of he was really handsome in the 90s. He got on the show News Radio, and that was kind of he was never taken seriously as a comic at all. He was a club comic, even though he'd been on TV, which means you're not very good at comedy because you've had a lot of exposure and your stand-up's not that good. So you're still playing bars of 50 people, right? But you're famous kind of because you were on News Radio. Then he got on Fear Factor, and it gave his stand-up comedy career a boost. Then he got on, you know, the Joe Rogan going, and that's when he started finally being able to play theaters. But he's never been a terribly funny comic, and he just had the special lightning in the bottle moment where before all of legacy media caught up to him, he was right there to be the guy that could get big guests. He could get Rob Zombie. He could get Quentin Tarantino,
Rob Zombie. That's the big
dude, I am telling you. No, dude, I'm not kidding you. Those were people that actually did big numbers for him because nobody had seen them given a long form interview like that. People actually, like a subculture of people love Rob Zombie. A subculture of people love listening to like Tarantino come on or Graham Hancock or whomever. And they weren't exposed to that before Joe Rogan. It gave them a place of feeling like they were in the underground. Once you go from the underground to the mainstream, you lose your hardcores.
Yeah. And so I just like, you know, and let's and we got other topics to get to, but I just wanted to say, like, you know, outside of like, if let's take out the politics of it, let's like take out all the things we disagree with Rogan and Trump on, like the fact that like he couldn't get a single good clip out of 3 hours with Trump is a failure as a fucking podcaster. It's like a total fucking failure to not have like a single clip, even where they're like agreeing on an issue. Like he let them slide on aliens. He let them slide on JFK. Trump was like, oh yeah, I was going to release JFK, but then the deep state told me not to. And Rogan was like, awesome. Like it's just
there's like a lot of really smart people. You would agree, you're great people. They told me not to.
It's you just would agree. It's just pathetic, and just like the fact that like it was like, to me it was like just it's the ringing death toll bell of like, alternative media and podcasting, like that they're like, oh, like we can have real conversations here, and it's like there's realer conversations happening on Fox News, and that's
it happens all the time, right? At one point, hip hop was happening in the Bronx, right? It was happening on street corners. It was happening in barbershops. It was happening all around, right?
Okay.
And slowly but surely it got commodified, and now it is popular music. You know what I mean? That's just what happens whenever there is something that's successful, something that's raw, something that's personal and has a purpose. There is going to be a corporate commodification of it, right? There is going to be a debasement of it. There's going to be a proliferation of it. And I think that's exactly what's happened to new media. You have to be able to look with your own eyes and exercise media literacy and be like, oh, these guys are reading ads for, Michelin tires and Walmart. And Amazon.com. Maybe they're not independent media. Maybe that's the same formula that Fox News had and the Murdoch family had. Maybe that's the same formula that they use on MSNBC that we were all super critical of. That's why it does kind of fry my cheese a little bit when you have all these people who quote unquote represent the independent media lexicon, people like PBD, people like The Hill, when they just kind of continue to LARP on.
Another thing about independent media that I think is weird and that a lot of people have pointed out about these big interviewers like Joe Rogan and Theo Von and what's that guy, Lex Fridman, right? Like it's seemingly almost the appeal for a lot of normal folks is that these guys come at it from a place of like, I don't really know much. I'm just asking questions. I don't have much of a perspective or a POV. I'm just like here to talk. And it's weird that people seem to actually prefer that. It's almost like the confrontational, aggressive style interview that we want to see out of an interview with a powerful person. It's almost like that makes normal people uncomfortable, like the confrontation triggers them or something, and they do just want to like almost have their own ignorance reflected in the interviewer. I think it comforts them to feel like if Joe Rogan or Theo Von or Lex Fridman is interviewing them, it's like, oh, this guy's just as stupid as I am. Like he also doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's just like trying to figure it out, man, or whatever. And I do think people weirdly like that, even though, as I said, if I'm going to watch an interview with a powerful person, let alone a 3-hour interview, it drives me crazy if that person doesn't get challenged. It drives me crazy if they get away without, facing any sort of real pushback.
Alternative media has become what everyone hated about mainstream, that we were just laundering these voices like without challenging them and like kind of like coding over the truth. And just
it's exactly what happened to Vice, right?
People.
Everything that made it cool to be on with Vice, right? It was gone as soon as they started taking a huge amount of investments, as soon as they became $1 billion company, right? As soon as they started running it as if it was MSNBC or the New York Times or whatever, right? They ended up trying to start a cable show because they were able to get a bunch of investments. And then, Shane Smith and whoever the fuck else, Gavin McInnes, they were able to cash out, become billionaires and stop caring about the product anymore. It happens time and time again. And the only way that I think we could really combat it, guys, is
suicide.
I mean, you almost have to reimagine that. You almost have to reimagine the network model, because that is seemingly where it starts to go awry, right? I think Breaking Points is an example of a small network model, but even then it's just 4 people, right? You know what I mean? You have TYT when they tried to expand into being like, oh, we're going to do all this, that, and the other. It eroded their market share. People didn't like what they were doing. They want to just see the people that they want to see doing what they wanted to see when they went on YouTube. And that's one of the limitations of it, right? A lot of times people are like, oh, if only I showed you this horrible, very dry news segment, everybody would want to watch it. And it's like, no, it's a little bit more of what Gavin said, where people kind of want to be assured. They want to be reassured. And if you're going to challenge them, you have to kind of cloak it in comedy. You have to cloak it in this sort of salacious storyline, right? That's kind of the formula for our show, the spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down, the pill in the, wedding cake, as Gavin likes to put it. You know what I mean? It's like
pill in the wedding cake. What the fuck?
I don't know. That was the analogy that he was like, you're giving like a pill and you put it in the cake. And
for, like if you're feeding your dog, like a medicine and you're like, it's not going to just take the pill. So you have to stuff it in a piece of cake.
A wedding cake.
That's Zach added that.
I ad-libbed the wedding cake.
I don't know why you would use wedding cake.
I was trying to think of a specific kind of cake. I was like, birthday cake, wedding cake, devil's food cake, angel cake.
You put a pill,
German chocolate,
a pill in my daughter's wedding cake on my daughter's wedding day.
That sounds like
right. I'm taking over. You guys don't understand good comedy in this podcasting industry.
Yeah, sometimes
the
you drug
lyrical nature of
the wedding cake. Sometimes you drug the wedding cake.
September 11 was our darkest hour. October 7 was Israel's darkest hour.
This one's going out to Noah. I want you to know who your guy is over here, just so while you self-righteously sit on the sidelines.
They are our best friend. I worked for Ronald Reagan for 8 years. Ronald Reagan said, we have to be there for Israel always because they are always there for us.
Yeah.
Hamas is not there for us. Iran is not there for us. They want to kill us. And the Palestinians are taught to kill us at 2 years old. They won't let a Palestinian in.
Wait, can you pause that?
Kindergarten.
At
2
2
years old.
At 2 years old, they're showing clips from Borat 2 and being like, look at Giuliani. Yeah.
I've seen this many tragedies. Many tragedies. There've been a lot of clips. A lot of people, they say, what are they doing over there? When they're 1, 2, 3 years old, they show them pictures of Jesus Christ. They show them pictures of Jesus Christ. And what do? They set it on fire. They burn it, folks. That's what they do. They burn Bibles too, whole passages. They read them out loud. They say, we want to bring death to Christianity, the American Christian way. The right's here to save it, folks. Be the light. Be with the right. Listen to Rudy Giuliani, folks. He led us through 9/11. He's going to lead us through the 10/7 and the 11/5.
Jordan, they won't let a Palestinian in Egypt. And Harris wants to bring them to you.
All right. Well, I think we can all agree about that. I think it's perfect. Clearly, Trump is going to solve the Middle East, fix all that. Michigan Muslims have endorsed him. Incredible. It's going good there. I mean, it is embarrassing that if Kamala can lose the Muslims to a party doing this kind of messaging, then that might be even more of an indictment of Kamala than anything else, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, they had a bunch of people in Michigan come out and performatively endorse Donald Trump.
Oh yeah,
in 2020 he got 20% of the Muslim vote in Michigan.
Yeah, but he's doing better this time, so we'll have to see. But this is not even the main thing that went off from this rally. Let's get to the Tony clips.
Let's talk. For people who don't know, Tony Hinchcliffe cut his teeth as the opener for Joe Rogan. He was the only guy they could find in the entire state of Texas that was both shorter and less funny than Joe Rogan. So naturally, he got the job. Let's see what kind of a whiz kid this guy is. Let's go.
It is absolutely wild times. It really, really is. And, there's a lot going on. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Barely a chuckle in a home crowd. Barely a chuckle for that one, but we've got more from old Tony HQ over there. What was your reaction to that one, fellas?
Well, the Puerto Rico thing is okay. So there's a few things. He does a lot of inappropriate racial jokes or whatever. And I like the idea that it's I am just telling jokes to a crowd that 100% earnestly wants and believes in hating immigrants. But it's a joke just to me. It's a joke for one in a crowd of 1 million or whatever. That part doesn't really make sense to me as an excuse. But I'm not.
Well, they all want.
Yeah, go for it.
Go for it. No, you can finish your thought, Griffin.
I was just gonna say, if I am trying to cancel someone for a joke, I don't know, we say all sorts of inappropriate stuff on this show too. Obviously, not to a crowd of people that earnestly believe any of those things or whatever. But I feel if you are a comedian going up at any kind of event, you should probably be roasting everyone and not dick sucking all the people that put you on stage. I think that's what actually makes you a real comedian. Outside all the edginess, outside of all the racism, if he went up there and made fun of Trump, made fun of all the people before, and made fun of Democrats, then I think there would be more of a defense for him as a comedian.
Yeah. Yeah. I also just feel there was nothing truly memeable about this joke. I think that's kind of the test of this style of humor, whatever you want to call it. Think about on the debate stage when Donald Trump said the thing about they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Do I think that was a wise campaign decision? No, not necessarily. But it was a kind of a classic Trump moment. It resulted in the typical liberal backlash that he was hoping for. But it also was kind of funny. People made a lot of memes about it. They set it to music. It became a viral moment. This just seems hateful. And not that I'm not defending the eating the dogs, eating the cats thing, but it did kind of seem more just like an old man, like, did you hear the Indians are eating dogs? Or, it felt kind of more just like a funny, weird thing. This, it just feels hateful. It just feels like you're going to call Puerto Rico an island of trash. Like, okay, like that's not even funny. That's not a punchline.
To a crowd that half of them have their crypto investments in Puerto Rico. It's completely like a hilarious crowd to do it to, because half the fucking rightoids and libertarians are all like offshoring all their money for like tax evasion in Puerto Rico anyways. Like the Paul brothers, like they're like based in Puerto Rico for like their taxes now. And it's something that like lots of like Republicans and libertarians do.
Yeah, dude, that guy Peter Schiff that Joe Rogan used to have on all the time to talk about the benefits of anarcho-capitalism.
Right.
He was always talking about how Puerto Rico was the place to go. It's great you could pay them under minimum wage because you're giving them the skills that they could use that would be transferable into a modern economy. No, the thing, to your point, Griffin, though, about like, oh, we make jokes all the time. I think you're always up shit creek without a paddle when you have to backtrack your joke and be like, guys, it's a joke. I'm a comedian. Clearly, it wasn't that fucking funny then, and you should have worked on your material. But let's hear this other banger from Tony.
Yeah, let's get all the bangers.
Heck yeah. It's a cool black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that? A lampshade? Look at this guy. Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm just kidding. That's one of my buddies. He had a Halloween party last night. We had fun. We carved watermelons together. It was awesome.
Boy, that was some great A1 material. Is that the kind of stuff that you get a real chuckle down in Austin, Texas, Griffin?
Yeah, it gets a huge chuckle. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like Tony is, I mean,
he's a bad comedian. I won't hear anything else. This guy's not funny at all.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, Tony, I mean, he's like if like a gay guy took so much Ozempic and made him straight. Like
really what he is that Joe Rogan, he went on that all meat diet, right? And he got real bad hemorrhoids, right? And the biggest one was Brendan Schaub, and there was a little small dinky one right next to it, that kept real bleeding every time he would wipe his ass. That's why he got, he had to take him on tour with him. You know what I mean? Just a little fucking hemorrhoid.
I mean, yeah. So it's like, so I mean, yeah, he like obviously is obnoxious, and a lot of his like shit, like a lot of like people who have been defending him are like, well, the Tom Brady roast was really good, and it's like that is like kind of like the easiest form of comedy. I don't know. I didn't watch it, but they all.
I think he made a joke about Giselle getting fucked by another guy. He has he's so unsophisticated. He can't see the world from anything other than the most like entry level, low hanging fruit. Burn. But anyway, I know we're coming up on our hour.
Wait, no. I got more coverage here. I put it in the doc, but I also put it in the chat here. So there have been responses already. The Trump campaign has already disavowed it, and they came out and said, "Oh, we don't approve of this comment." Actually, but then we have Bad Bunny and Ricky Martin have both endorsed Kamala and shit on Tony for this clip, and then also people from Florida, Republicans from Florida like Rick Scott and others have also disavowed this Tony thing. So this actually might be the first time that Tony does something funny, which would be make Trump lose the election over a bad joke. Like that would be the first funny thing Tony's ever done, because we got Ricky Martin here. Let's click on Ricky Martin's image.
Oh yeah.
Do you not think that they do you not think he ran his jokes by the campaign where they just like, yeah, say whatever you want, who cares?
Well, I mean, it was in the teleprompter. Like these jokes were in like the teleprompter, so like someone put them in there.
That's what I'm saying. Like no one ran those jokes by the campaign. They really just were gonna let him say whatever he wanted to. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like who like Ricky Martin. He needs to like just do a little line dance all over Tony's face here. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna not be helpful for them. I think it seems like it's gone around quite a bit, and it'll be really funny if like this loses like 10 to 20,000 votes in key states.
Yeah, it really could. It really could. People talk about that, and it's not just with this incident. There's been a couple incidents where Trump has like really said things that have pissed off people from various demographics, right? Like, or even just from like cities. What did you say? Like, which city did you say was a total dump? Or Detroit. Yeah, he said Detroit's a dump and like shit like that. And it's like, yeah, Trump is Trump, and most people like, they don't really care about him saying stupid things. But there's a reason why politicians don't go around saying like Detroit is a dump in a swing state like Michigan that they need to win. Like, yeah, sometimes you do need to follow conventional wisdom. Sometimes you can't just piss people off. Sometimes there are going to be consequences for just being this belligerent, for just being this uncaring and insensitive. Yeah, of course, some people are going to get pissed off about this. Of course, some Puerto Rican folks are going to be like, "What the fuck? This isn't cool." I thought that I thought that the Trump team was pro Puerto Rican. Don't they have some like Puerto Rican rapper or some shit that they trot out to?
Is that where Forgiato Blow is from?
I don't think it's Forgiato, but I think they have one guy who's like a Puerto Rican rapper, and they'll bring him out to pander to that demographic and shit. I forget, but either way, yeah. I mean, it would piss me off if I was Puerto Rican. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like, we'll see. I mean, ultimately for me, it's like, outside of like, oh, will this, will the racism affect people? Will all that? I'm just like on a comedy level. It's like you went out there and you didn't like make fun of anyone on the stage. Like I'm seeing comedians like in this like rightoid sphere basically just like completely pull all the punches on like the giant cast of losers that speak at these Trump rallies. And it's like a total field where you could mine and like you could hit everyone. You could be someone that goes after everyone. But instead you're doing this like earnest thing where you're like supporting Trump and being racist. And it's like, okay, all right, man.
Yep.
Like hope that works for you.
Yep, and ultimately the big sin is that it's not funny. I feel like so much of offensive comedy is instantly forgiven by even the group that you're making fun of if it's actually funny. You don't think people from a specific ethnic group can't handle a roast? Of course they can. They love when their culture gets accurately roasted, or when like someone makes an interesting or witty like insight or observation about their culture that's genuinely funny. People love that stuff. People aren't above laughing at themselves or their culture. They really aren't. But what it is that these jokes just aren't funny. And this is, it goes back to the conversation we used to have on the show about Dave Chappelle, when that whole special came out and everyone lost their mind and people were talking about boycotting Netflix and all that shit. And my take on it was like, I don't actually care that Dave Chappelle made jokes about the trans community. My problem is that they're not funny jokes at all. His joke was just that I agree with J.K. Rowling. I'm on Team Turk.
Right.
That's not a fucking joke. Where's the punchline? I didn't laugh. You're just saying I'm on the side of this hateful fucking bitch and that I agree with her, deranged tweets. Like, that's not funny. So no, I don't think you should be canceled, but I'm also not going to sit here and pretend it's good comedy. In the same way, no, I'm not saying this Tony guy should be canceled, but also don't fucking call yourself a comedian. That's your material. That's your fucking best.
It is undistinguishable from Stephen Colbert running out and doing like a little dance for Kamala. It is just as woke and as soy. It's just the opposite side, and it's just like
which is hilarious because all those guys used to be like, can't do comedy anymore,
complaining about the late nights.
You guys made it all so political. Comedy used to be for everybody, but oh wait, now that I have somebody that's gonna suck my cock, some guy that's gonna stroke me off and laugh at my jokes when they're not funny because they're all ideologues, they're all brainwashed. They were like, holy shit, I could just go and compete with the people who are buying tickets to see Jim Brewer. Okay, sure, great. These brain dead assholes.
At least with Jim Brewer, he's
a physical comedy. He puts his whole pussy into it. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, and I generally hate physical comedy. Like I think it's so annoying when comedians aren't actually funny, so they just have to like rip their shirt off and like do crazy stuff. Like that shit genuinely annoys me. I think it's the worst of the worst. But I will say Jim Brewer, at least he puts his back into it. At least he like sweats a little bit on stage compared to like this Tony guy.
Remember when he was on that like Borat 2 rally, like type of deal where he's up on stage talking about the vaccine and it's like him and Roseanne Barr. Yeah.
The last thing I'll say on comedy and racism is it seems like once a generation there's a white boy that can be racist and funny. There's like one every generation. I think it might have been Trump back then. This generation, it's already been decided. It's Chet Hanks. And I'm sorry, but like you're not Chet Hanks.
True.
And I'm sorry, but like it really, you can only like once the white boy who's racist has been anointed, there cannot be a second. So you have to wait for the next generation. So, but I see a lot of people be like, oh, wow, look how funny it is to be like racist. But like it has to come from a place where it's you clearly don't mean it. And
We
he,
might-
and that Tony like means it. So that's what I have to say about racism and comedy.
All right, Gavin's warning me that I can't play the legendary Chet Hanks Eric Andre appearance.
Maybe we can. We might get.
I don't want to get
struck.
copyright struck. That's okay. Let's get into some of these super chats.
It's horse race season. We're here. We're 8 days away from the election, and we've got ballot boxes on fire. Let's start off with that first clip right up there at the top.
Okay, gotcha.
Let's
see. Lake County election ballot box on fire.
Let's cook it up.
Burning in the rain, so you guys know
It's
it's
burning.
fake news. It's fake
That's right.
news.
It's raining and it's burning. Yeah, explosions don't work in the rain. That's right, folks.
You can't have fire in the rain, just like you can't have snow when it's.
Are you
climate
guys
change.
ready to stop the freaking steal? Let's play this. So there are apparently reports of this happening in I think Oregon and like Washington.
This was in Washington.
Yes, they're burning the ballots. It has begun, folks. You guys think the most annoying thing is deciding if you're gonna support Kamala or Jill Stein? No, the most annoying thing is gonna be the stop the steal stuff. Okay, they're gonna try to do the stop the steal thing again. It's gonna be a lot more annoying all over again, and let's all mentally prepare for that. Let's all mentally prepare for this. This is America, right? This is what's happening with the election
So
system.
what's the alleged? Who's burning them? The Trump people or the Kamala people?
Well, who
And also,
knows?
if your ballot gets burned, then do you get to vote again?
That's a great question too. These are all questions. We're having
So
questions.
what I've read about this is this was the Clark County election drop box in Fisher's Landing Transit Center, okay, in Clark County, I believe Washington, and the trouble is right, you would be legal if they are able to find out that your ballot was one of the ones that was set on fire. You
Mhm.
would then be able to legally vote in person. However, I don't believe there is now time for you to get a mail-in ballot. So if you were the kind of person who was using that mail-in ballot because it's unsafe for you to go to a polling place because you're worried about being exposed to an illness, or maybe you have a handicap that makes it hard for you to leave your residence, or you just don't have an effective mode of transportation, those would be the kind of people who would be most likely swept up through the cracks, right? Because there's not going to be another way to get them a ballot in time. However, it doesn't seem very smart because all evidence points to the fact that this is like some Proud Boy MAGA bullshit, and they're wasting their time in Washington, which Kamala is going to win in a landslide. So it would be so ineffective to try and think about how many ballots you would have to burn. We're not talking about Florida in 2000, right, where you need to get rid of 20, 30, 40,000 votes, right? We're talking about Washington State, where it's going to easily go, because of the Seattle swing, by like 100,000 votes.
Yeah, it just excited me. It got me really excited. I was like, oh, wow, here we are. We're really 8 days out. The mailboxes are blowing up. People are saying all sorts of things. People are trying to come up with all their reasons. Like, the theories are happening. Everything's convalescing. But, we've got a lot going on here. We want to take a look at Kamala and Trump. We've got some facts from both here. I did want to pull up this hot mic clip that we got. We got a hot mic from Kamala and Whitmer here. It's the second element.
This is totally not staged. They totally did not know that they were being recorded here. I think they thought they had absolute privacy. Gavin, when you're the vice president and you're the nominee for a major party presidential ticket, and another person is your gal pal who happens to be the governor of Michigan, a very critical swing state, and you're, I don't know, like 10 days before an election, you're sitting at the pub, you think, this is pretty covert.
Is she about to whip out a Dorito? Is that who we're talking about?
Oh, God, I wish. Yeah, I mean, any mic is going to be a little bit of a hot mic when it comes to the governor of Michigan, if you know what I mean. But let's take a play of this clip.
Yeah. Oh, we have microphones.
Wow, they didn't notice at all.
I didn't realize that.
Wow, I
Okay.
can't believe it. She let it slip. Let's see.
So,
Yeah.
all right, so pause. So if you can't hear on the audio chat, they're saying we're having problems with young men is what was said. And then before they do the hot mic here. I mean, that is true. And I do think it was, let's keep it up for a second. It's an interesting moment seeing, someone who, should be running away with this on the right, and on the left, the person that would be up 10 points right now.
Honestly, Here's the thing, Griffin. Here's the thing. Clearly, she's very shocked, and this isn't a strategic play at all. Clearly, she thought it was her mistake. She's been spending so much time with Joe Biden over the last 4 years that his senescence has rubbed off on her. She thought she was in the West Wing right now. She thought she was in the West Wing having a pint with her old pal Gretch, and instead, oh no, what we have you. There's reporters all around us, and we're in a critical swing state.
Yes, exactly. And speaking of critical swing states, there's been a lot of things going on in Michigan still. It seems like, Michigan is going to be the state to watch. And Ro Khanna took issue with a certain billboard. He got mad at a certain billboard here. We might full screen this one. Yeah. Ro Khanna said, these cynical Harris Cheney billboards are all over Dearborn and Southeast Michigan. Residents in the area are getting mailers with the two linked. And if you can see on the ad, it says Harris pro-war, Cheney pro-gooning. I can't exactly tell. But I do think it's funny that this is like the best the Democrats have, is that they're like, oh, well, we're only like running them on stage 3 times a day. We're not linked to the Cheneys. I love this. Like, oh, I can't believe they're trying to link us to our BFFs. Like, you guys just made like friendship bracelets yesterday. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I actually am surprised that the Republicans and that Donald Trump haven't leaned more into that. And it leaned more into
the
saying
Cheney stuff.
The Democratic Party is now the party of the Cheneys. Like that seems like, because Trump, one of the original, his original appeal, a big part of it was that he ran against the Bush era Republican establishment, the Bush Cheney orthodoxy in the Republican Party. People don't we're so far removed from that now that people kind of forget what that was like. But before Donald Trump and MAGA took over the GOP, before that happened, the most recent Republican administration had been the Bush Cheney administration, and Republican Party branding was still pretty unpopular. It was still like not cool to be associated with the Republicans. Like, no one wanted to be a Dick Cheney fan. No one wanted to be a George Bush fan after 2008. And Trump was brilliantly able to tap into that instead of the, Marco Rubios and obviously the Jeb Bushes, who were like, George Bush kept this country safe. Donald Trump was like, no, he fucking didn't. He was a piece of shit. And so was his stupid war. Right. So yeah, now that, it seems like Kamala Harris has just given them such a layup by literally parading out Dick and Liz Cheney and proudly accepting their endorsements. I'm honestly surprised that Donald Trump doesn't seize on it more, doesn't point out more that, yeah, this is now the party of war. This is now the party of the Cheneys. This is now the party of everything that I ran against in 2016. It's just transferred parties. He should make that his primary message. I'm not saying he hasn't hit it a few times. I'm sure he has.
Yeah.
But
Vance hits it a lot. Vance is way better at like going on a podcast and giving like clips to people. Where he's
Tim
like
Dillon
all these
and him
points.
just had it the other day.
Yeah. And Vance actually made sort of like an interesting, not I think real or earnest, but like an interesting almost leftist point that like, oh, well, the Kamala people are even more pro-war and are putting Israel in a dangerous position by allowing them to continue the war. Because if you love Israel, then continuing to allow them to do all this shit is making Israel like number one not safe place to be. So yeah, I mean, Vance is able to articulate actual like policy ideas in a way that like I don't even see like any other Trump surrogate being.
Well, Trump doesn't understand what was effective about his 2016 campaign, right? I used to bang on this drum a lot, but I think when he fired Steve Bannon, we'll reflect on it as the end of Trump's rise. I think after that, it's going to be all downhill from there. I don't think he'll ever win an election without the help of Steve Bannon, quite simply because of what Gavin laid out and exactly what you laid out, Griffin. He needs to be banging the drum. I am the anti-war candidate. I called out George Bush. I scared George Bush so much that he left the Republican Party and he ran to go hang out with the Democrats, which is the new party of war. They're sucking up to Liz Cheney. Did a single new war happen when I was your president, right? He needs to make sure that guys like Rudy Giuliani stay far as fuck away from his campaign, because when they go up there and they bake the like hysterical jingoistic post 9/11 rah, let's go to war message, it totally flies in the face of exactly what Donald Trump just advocated for, or what he should advocate for, right? Because he needs to find a way to make himself appear as if he's a stability candidate, as if he is the guy who will restore order, which is absolutely fucking baffling for anybody to conceive of, but it's true, right? And that's why I think that JD Vance was a horrid pick for him, because you're right. While he can go and he can buddy up with a bunch of the Joe Rogan adjacent right-wing comics like Andrew Schultz and Tim Dillon, and they could be like, oh yeah, the Cheneys are known for saving democracy all over the world in places like Baghdad and Kabul, and that is funny, right? And it resonates, right? But you also know, okay, well, Donald Trump also massively escalated with Iran. He got us out of the nuclear deal. He extrajudicially assassinated Qasem Soleimani. Okay, he massively escalated tensions in the Black Sea. He was expanded AFRICOM. We could go into the list of all the hyper-military things that and of course he's going to fan the flames in the Middle East, but it would be at least smart for them to give the rules that that's not going to happen.
But it's like, that's like, and like maybe that was all luck that Trump isn't in the position that Biden is in right now in terms of all the escalating things with Russia or in Israel in the Middle East, but it's a counterfactual. It didn't happen during Trump, and it is worse now in a different administration, and that's what a lot of people or independents or undecideds are going to view it as. They're not going to have this more nuanced take on it. They're going to be like, there's a lot of wars now. There wasn't wars as much before.
I mean, I think that's potentially true for some people. However, I genuinely don't think that Donald Trump is going to be able to successfully brand himself as an anti-war candidate.
Certainly, but the other side, Kamala, has decided, no, we're going to do everything we can to lose. We are going to brand ourselves as like the sensible war candidate, with the nice wars, with the good wars that we used to love, apparently.
To play devil's advocate, though, Kamala Harris is aligning herself with likely voters, and Donald Trump is aligning himself with unlikely voters.
Certainly, and instead of devil's advocate, let's call it monsters advocate.
Let's hear who we're really. This is my kind of K-Hiver.
Yeah, let's see a K-Hiver. All right, pause.
What the fuck is the matter with you?
So a little bit of context here. These were some pro-Palestine Gaza protesters protesting, I guess, outside of a Kamala rally. No, keep it up. Can we get the visual back of her leaning in? This is what Sheryl Sandberg meant by leaning in. You have to scream at a child. I love this. This is like the K-Hive of old that I remember. The K-Hive that would dox you and tactically nuke your studio apartment for saying anything mean about her in 2019. I love this. And yeah, like this is ultimately what a lot of the liberals have decided is the best strategy, is to just scream at these people, to scream at them in the face.
If I were that child's mother, I would about clock this lady. Okay, I understand the pickle the father's in right here.
Yeah, I think if someone leans in and screams at your child, you should be able to hit that person. That's basically assault, right? At that point,
I mean, you scream at my kid like that, you are getting the earful of your fucking life. I will make you so afraid to leave your house ever again. I swear to God.
Unless the child's a Jill Stein voter.
Look at that. Are you kidding me? This guy is so calm. I would be seeing red. I would be seeing fucking red, dude. I can't believe this shit.
But this is. Yeah, but
like this lady right here, this lady is the only person with like a heart and soul in the situation outside of the father who's desperately trying to protect his child over here. This lady's like, what the hell is the matter with you? What the fuck is wrong with you?
I also don't think that this is even so this lady doesn't read even to me as like one of the lame Starbucks Zionists that like cries outside colleges. This reads as like a true blue American like K-Hiver who's like buying a lot of the stuff that they're told to be, which is that the like Palestine protesters are evil and rude and need to be brought in line or discarded from the party. That is certainly a massive sentiment. We have a clip here coming up next right now that we can pull up of Kamala being interrupted once again at a protest. And we can check that out as well. But yeah, this is what they've decided to do in the last 2 weeks, is continue this message.
Yeah.
We are fighting for America's future. And we understand the opportunity we have before us to turn the page on the fear.
He's like, I guess we won't turn the page on fear.
It's an audiobook. We're doing 1.25 speed.
She reminds me of the character Dolores Umbridge
Oh,
from the Harry Potter book.
wow.
You guys
True.
remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Here's
Major
the thing,
villain.
Here's the thing, though. Unlike Biden and Trump, don't you think this is actually effective? Like, if Kamala had to deal with this every time she spoke publicly, don't you think our foreign policy would change as it related to Israel and Gaza? She hates this stuff.
Oh, yeah, no.
She hates it. Donald Trump is too. I mean, obviously that would never happen. He'll just like tell his crowd to go like, throw the protester in
Beat
the
him
trash
up.
can.
Yeah.
Or something.
They're not gonna like
kill
how they
him.
get treated on
Kill
the way
him.
out.
I'll pay your legal bills. Kill him.
Security
whatever.
not gonna be super nice. Don't
Yeah,
be too nice.
and Joe Biden, he doesn't even do public appearances. He's too cooked. But Kamala, like, clearly the only reason she's in politics at all
Is to have a good
because
time.
She likes,
yeah.
yay, hi, whatever. The
Right.
fuck.
Yeah.
It's just she doesn't want to deal with this. She doesn't even know how to respond.
Oh no,
Right.
that's a great point, and I think that's why we should support Kamala Harris, because I think that if you could continue, and these protesters are heroes. Fuck everybody that's booing them. This is exactly what they need to be doing. They need to go
100%.
out there to Dearborn, Michigan, and make her look horrible so that she has to change her position, right? And I think that because she is the one that's closest to, needing the reassurance of those people, because she doesn't like looking like a witch, because she doesn't like looking like Dolores Umbridge, I think that she's not likely, but more likely than the other options to change course.
Yeah. And so it's like, maybe she wins even without these people, but it is a clear vulnerability. And it's just like, cynically, politics, the majority of Democrats want to see a change. It would be exciting. It would be a huge, like, people are always wondering, what can Kamala do in the last 2 to 3 weeks to really gain momentum? And this would be the one issue that could do that in 2 weeks. The one issue where if you outlined any difference at all from the current status quo, that it would bring a ton of excitement, a ton of energy, a ton of news attention on her, even if it gets controversial, even if she's getting grilled in interviews. Like, it would refocus everything on her. And if it's like, if you want to win, but so
and it also eats Trump's lunch on America First, because then she can point out, hey, look, we actually want to use the taxpayer money for things that are going to help your community. And she can also use the line that we talked about earlier that you brought up, Griffin, where it's like, hey, this is actually in the best interest of Israel. We got to do this because Netanyahu is behaving not in the best interest of Israel. We need to put it back on the right course.
Totally. Yeah. So that's the Michigan situation, but we're covering a lot of stuff here. Let's go to Zach's tweet here. Zach got attacked online.
Okay, you know what? It's one of those things where Gavin and I, we've done this for so long. We're very battle tested. I am often canceled for being right. I'm often canceled for being correct.
Same.
I always bounce back. I always come back, but build back better. You know what I mean?
That's
This is
right.
America, after all.
Roads
Anyway,
and bridges.
We got to make this one a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I'll go big.
People
I'll
cannot.
go big on this one. All right. Well, let's actually dial back really quick, Griffin, because I'm going to go ahead and scroll back, and I'll let you guys. I'll paint the full picture. I'll let you guys. This was what really started it off. Okay, guys. I said something that I know will trigger Griffin again. I said there's a huge amount of money being spent to make it look like this race is close, but it really isn't. KH is going to win the Electoral College easily. Then we have to start the real work. I think that real work is making Kamala feel horrible about herself. I think that is following her around wherever she goes and, continuing to call her a genocider. I liked Gavin's strategy that I think a lot of people have been doing about the LBJ thing. Like, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today? Right. Holocaust terrorists, all that stuff. Keep it up. I love it. I want to see more of it. I want to see Kamala Harris feel sick to her stomach every single day before she goes to sleep. But my analysis is my analysis. And my analysis is that I believe Kamala Harris is going to win the election. And I don't think all of the predicted money that they're dumping into it. And I don't think all of this phony crap about how, oh my gosh, it's all up in the air. No, I'm with Michael Moore, the Michael Moracle, the guy who not only predicted the Donald Trump presidency in 2016. He predicted January 6th. He predicted Joe Biden's presidency, and he predicted.
And by the way, I've also been saying this for ever since, even before Kamala was announced as the VP or as the new nominee. I just wanted to make it clear. I have also been predicting that if Biden got replaced, whoever replaced him would most likely win the election, that they would instantly become the front runner, and that almost anyone other than Joe Biden could easily defeat Donald Trump. So it's not just sex.
No, 100%. No, exactly. I just tweeted this out.
So, I'll just quickly respond to that. I do think there's definitely money in media, in mainstream media, to keep people's eyes on the horse race. But I mean, it is like a very close race, but I think it's all kind of a turn of phrase, because if 3 to 4 of the swing states swing for Kamala, that is like a large electoral college victory technically, but that doesn't mean the race wasn't close. Like 7 swing states are within the margin of error. So it's a close race that may turn out to have an electoral college like landslide like one way or another, but like the race is close. And like if this race isn't close, then what race is? Like I feel like it doesn't get closer in terms of the polling. Some people have said that they're hedging and waiting. So basically, a lot of pollsters are nervous about getting it wrong, and they're also asking questions. They're asking questions like they weight their polls essentially by asking, did you vote for Trump or Biden in the past?
They're oversampling Trump
weighting
voters.
That kind of stuff.
100%. And it's exactly what I was talking about earlier, Griffin. When Nate Silver he was hated universally by liberals everywhere because he predicted that Hillary was going to. Well, actually, I talked about this on Crystal Kyle and Friends. There is such a animosity towards people that forecast a Democrat victory and get it wrong that nobody wants to do it. And that just leaves knuckleheads like us out here who don't give a fuck. This is what I believe. I followed up by saying that I think that Donald Trump's base caps it around 45%, and I think that Kamala will get a turnout that is enough to dwarf that. And then this is the one that Griffin put in the folder that he said that the people in the replies were pretty pissed off about. I didn't even bother to read the replies really. I honestly don't want to hear shit from people who have already given up. Nothing is going to get better. There's nothing we can do. Then why are you still running your mouths? This is a sentiment Gavin and I have shared on this podcast many times. Sanctimonious bullshit achieves nothing, and a candidate polling at 1% 10 days before an election is not it. So I feel like I didn't say anything super controversial in the eyes of the Vanguard.
Yeah, I mean, we say stuff like this every day. It's just when you put it in a tweet form, everyone gets all like virtuous and they're like, "What? Do you love genocide?" And it's like, no, shut the fuck up. So yeah, people on Twitter are annoying as fuck. They can kick rocks. Obviously, I mean, if you're someone who left a comment on that tweet, I'm not saying fuck you. You might have been right, but you might have left a good comment. I don't know. I didn't read the comments either, but yeah, I do agree. The sanctimonious bullshit achieves nothing. Finger wagging at normal, decent Americans who don't want to live under Donald Trump for another 4 years and calling them genocide lovers is about the easiest way to deflate any energy your movement could ever have. I think it's ridiculous. I think most people understand that what's happening in Israel is terrible, but it's going to continue under both candidates. Therefore, they're voting on other things. Like, I know that that's impossible for you to understand. And you're like, how could you care about, the regulatory state? Or how could you care about the NLRB when there's a genocide going on? But it's like, what else do people have to vote on? I'm sorry, but both candidates are basically just status quo candidates when it comes to foreign policy. I hate that, but it's true. At least when it comes to Israel. So yeah, people are going to vote on other things, and they're going to vote on abortion, and they're going to vote on labor issues. And if you care about that sort of stuff, then Kamala Harris is the clear choice. So yeah, stop calling people like genocide lovers who are making the obviously correct decision and supporting a lesser of two evils. And that's what every election is. This isn't the first fucking election of my lifetime where it's like a lesser of two evil election. Guess what? The Democrats are always complicit when it comes to foreign policy crimes. This isn't the first genocide of our lifetime. There was a freaking Yemeni genocide happening like not that long ago.
Trump vetoed the bill to make sure that there was bipartisan legislation to stop the U.S. arms going to Saudi Arabia to commit a genocide in Yemen. It was sponsored by Ro Khanna and co-sponsored in the Senate by Rand Paul. Donald Trump vetoed one of the single pieces of bipartisan legislation that made it through the Congress during his entire 4 years of his presidency to aid and abet a genocide.
Yep. And also, if nuclear fucking war does happen, or the potential for World War III happens, no, I don't want Donald Trump with the fucking with the finger on the button. Like I don't want that. I remember how scary it was when he was in that position and like starting fights with fucking other nuclear armed superpowers on Twitter and shit. Like it just, yeah, no. But anyway. I mean, I generally agree with you. The one thing I would agree with Griffin on is that while I remain firm in my prediction that Harris will win, I've been saying that like I said, even before she became the nominee, I said, if you make Harris the top of the ticket, she will win. I remain, I still believe that. What I do agree with Griffin on, though, is that, yeah, I don't think it's going to be like I do think it's going to be a close race. I do think it is a close race. And I don't think that like Kamala is going to win by I don't think she's going to get like 310 electoral college votes or something.
Well, no, I mean, even when I tweeted out in August that she was going to win 303 electoral college victories, people were like, that's insane. That's crazy. It's going to be way closer than that. So I think the needle has been getting moved, right? And I think that as we start to see more general election polls that come in with Donald Trump at 46% and Kamala at 54%. And then you factor in the fact, the element of the margin of error, which is going to be at least 2.5%. And I think it's going to go towards Kamala. You start to have a much less close race than everybody else is talking about. And I think it's my duty to come out here and be like, guys, I don't think it's as close as everyone's telling you. I think they all want it to be razor close. I think the Republican Party is coping and seething because they know Donald Trump is going to get starched. And they're trying to do everything they can to prevent that reality from coming to fruition.
Pull the tweet back up. I wanted to pull this tweet back up because I think you thought maybe I would disagree with this tweet, but I actually agree with this tone of tweet about it, because for me, it sounds like you're responding to like the Jill Stein voters or whatever. And for me, it's like, I think you can not harass people based on who they're going to vote, but you personally can say, I'm not voting for Kamala over this, and this is the single thick issue that is a deal breaker for me. I totally respect that, but when it's no, it actually has to be all about this, we have to wrap all of that activism around Jill Stein, is where I'm kind of do we have to? We can not vote for Kamala and not have to make Jill Stein the centerpiece of that and the head of that. It's kind of like that tweet where there's that famous tweet that's guy who's only ever watched Boss Baby. This movie it isn't like Boss Baby. It's just where this movie could use a little more Boss Baby. I feel like we're doing the Boss Baby with this thing as kind of a weird side argument to be had. And then on the Google Doc, is Griffin's audio low, or is that just our volume? I don't know.
I fixed it. It was our audio.
On the Google Doc, though, there's another version or style of tweet right below this. I titled it 200,001 Jews.
Yeah, I saw this one.
So
shout out to this guy. He listens to the show.
Okay, great. Brianna Joy Gray tweeted, would you vote for Harris if she'd funded the killing of 200,000 Jews? I actually think that's an interesting question. And then Joe Mayal wrote, yes, if her opponent would fund the killing of 200,001 Jews. And it's okay, all right. Yeah, go for it, man. That's the right energy we need. We need to save that
from genocide to groceries.
We need to save that one Jew, which in my mind is Michael Rappaport. That's the extra Jew. And yeah, I think that what I like Zach's tweet and energy, but the majority of the energy that I see from the more liberal audience is this, which is just insane. And I just gotta say, people like this they're not actually on my side at all. They're not on my side. They don't share my politics. And
I feel a lot of people that are voting, though, it's not about being on a side. It's not about activism. It's literally just about who the fuck is going to be my goddamn president for the next 4 years. It's not about anything other than that. So,
if you phrase things in retarded ways like this, then it's fuck
agree.
you. You have a stupid view of this politics and no sensitivity at all to this issue.
But also, Griffin, I know that we all want to be virtuous, but is he wrong? Is it actually if their two options are this guy is going to kill a ton of people, and this person is going to kill a ton of people.
One more.
This person's going to kill 90% more, this person's going to kill
99. It's the Hitler thing. Yeah.
Those 10% people not matter. If you can affect that change, if you can result in that many less people dying, then it's not. I mean, isn't that kind of what voting is? I know we all want to be virtuous and pretend that I only want to rally around pure and ardent anti-imperialist, but ultimately all we're doing is voting on it is harm reduction. It is
I agree with harm reduction.
The family pocket full of shells.
I agree with whatever harm reduction thing you're saying. I disagree with this fucking attitude, this fucking insidious fucking attitude that's just actually if it's even one more and doing these numbers, it's very fucking logging on just on your computer, and you're completely isolated from this struggle and from the families that are being slaughtered and the people in this country.
So is Bree's tweet, though. It's not like she's in touch with that either. She's also just logging onto Twitter to virtue signal about how I voted for someone who doesn't kill people, and
right?
You voted for someone who does, and I'm better than you because I wrote in Jill Stein, and you voted for someone who actually could win, and I'm a fucking moron, and you're not. That's all her timeline is.
If your messaging is, I think that we can pressure Kamala more to end this genocide, I think that's good. If you find yourself doing 99.9% Hitler shit, then like I fundamentally believe that you're a joke and a fucking loser and a sicko and a freak and a loser, because this is not the way to phrase any of this shit. So maybe it's a messaging thing, but it's just like all these fucking but it's nasty and it's fucking gross, and I fundamentally think that like these people will accept anything if that's how they talk about this shit. If that's how they see babies' fucking brains exploded and go, actually, if it's one more, I'll go with the other person. It's like, yes, you can like fundamentally decide as a voter to still vote for Kamala, but this attitude is disgusting. And these people do not share any kind of movement with me.
What it is, Griffin, and I totally agree with you, right? I think that it is wrong to let ourselves get into this framework. I think we always have to be on the offense and not be on the defense. And I think that right now our best offensive play is pushing Kamala, right? Pushing Kamala to do something. That's been my analysis, and I don't think that you should just sit back on your hands and be like, well, it could be worse, right? No, of course not. But what I do think we should really earnestly examine is the sentiment of that fellow right there. And what it is it's a self-defense mechanism as an American who feels powerless. You just default in your brain, okay, my calculus is I'm always going to go harm reduction, harm reduction, harm reduction. And it's pernicious, not because in a narrow instance like this, it might turn out to be correct if you break it down into a binary, but it's not inspiring a movement. It's not leading people to change. It's not catalyzing a movement, right? It doesn't put the onus on us to change things. It puts the onus on us to allow things to get perpetually worse by a little less. And that's what I do think is uninspiring about it. And that's why I do think you're right to say that they're not in the same movement as us. But I think it's very, very easy to fall into that trap if you are just a powerless American. If you don't feel like you're able to do anything but shout into the void, you're like, fuck, I do only have the option of going into 99% Hitler. And I think it's almost the same as taking the black pill, right? I think it's basically saying, I've given up. I don't care about trying to move the ball forward. I'm only just going to default forever to the slightly less bad position. And yeah, of course, you want to choose the enemy that you fight against, but you also want to inspire people to do something. You want to inspire a movement. So I do agree with that too. I just don't want to call out this Joe guy because I think he means well.
I mean, I don't know who the fuck this is. Is he? You said he watches our show.
I just know he's a smaller Twitter account, so I was trying to be nice.
I clicked his profile and it said progressive. So
yeah, I mean, ultimately, I do understand, as cringy as that tweet was, and as annoyingly as it was phrased.
And it's not just this guy. This is like what all of them are saying.
Also,
so it's not just him.
I also think some of the third party people, and again, I support third parties if the third party is even remotely viable. If I'm like, this candidate's decent, they can get to 5%, maybe there's something to build here, then I'm down. But that's not the case in this election cycle. Everyone knows that. And the third party supporters, they do put Democratic voters in the position to have to make those sort of arguments, because they're like, what, you support every bad thing the Democrats do? You support nuclear holocaust? You support climate change? You support oil? You support all this crap that Democrats have signed on for? So it does put voters in the position to be like, no, I don't support those things. I'm voting Democrats because they're this much less bad on those things, even if it's just 1%. That's the position we're put in. That's the fucked up Sophie's choice that we're put in. So no, I also don't like turning around and blaming voters that are able to acknowledge that, live in reality. And yeah, it is cold, but it also is reality, Griffin. Like, it is not properly phrased, but he's not wrong. And that's what I do hate about some of the third party arguments, is that they refuse to live in reality, and they refuse to acknowledge that, yeah, having a Democrat is 10% better, even if tons of people are still getting slaughtered, even if the climate is getting warmer, even if everything is still getting worse. That's going to happen no matter who the fuck is president.
Yeah, totally. And then for me, it's just like that. It's the attitude and the messaging that seems to then turn into like a view of politics where it's about not pushing people and instead accepting what's given. That's what I get from messages like that. Outside of just that guy, it's a message I see from a lot of people online, and I just wanted to check it for a second here.
Sure.
There's some other stuff going on. Why don't we loosen it up for a second? So the Democrats have released a new ad.
I don't know why we got so intense there. That was intense.
Well, this is the
oh
circle.
God, this ad is crazy.
Oh,
I can't believe
man.
this is real.
Dude,
So
I almost said we're about to watch a real circle jerk, and then I pulled this up. I haven't seen this ad, but you guys, I mean, wow, do we advertise correctly today?
let's go full screen.
Corn. emoji.
Hell yeah.
Here, honestly, let's do this. Let's just do this.
Sorry, you can't do that.
What the hell, man? How'd you get in here?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're banning porn nationwide.
You can't tell me what to do. Get out of my bedroom, you creep.
I won the last election, so it's my decision. I'm just gonna watch and make sure you don't finish illegally.
And then Tim Walz comes in and finishes him off. So you might be shocked by that ad, but apparently that ad is testing incredibly well with young male undecided voters.
Dude, I bet it is. That's a killer message.
It's a killer message, right?
Wank it for Waltz, bro. Yeah. Wank it for Waltz.
And it doesn't have the like this ad is endorsed by Kamala Harris on it, obviously.
It's funny. She's like, I endorse this message.
I'm Coach Waltz.
I'm the pro-gooning candidate.
So I do think it's an effective piece of advertising because even though we know it's connected to the Kamala or the Democrats or whatever, like most people will just see that and think it's like an independently funded ad, and they're going to be like, you know, that is a good point. The Republicans who claim to care a lot about freedom and who claim to be all like alpha males or what, they're telling me I can't like watch porn in my private time or like look at what I want to on the internet. That's crazy. And I think I know there is an increasing like moral panic around porn and sex and it's crazy. I don't understand it, but
I get scared when I'm on Pornhub. I get scared.
I hope most people still understand that, like, yeah, we don't want the government regulating. We don't want the government in our private lives to that extent. But that being said, I do think that the anti-porn movement is a burgeoning, it's increasing, and we can't ignore it. I actually compare the anti-porn movement to the anti-abortion movement in that the anti-abortion movement originally started out as a total joke. No one took it seriously. But then it got to the point through genuine advocacy and the infesting of the political system, the Republican Party, it became a real thing. I do see parallels with the anti-porn movement, although obviously the end result of that would not be as dire. It wouldn't be as much of a human rights violation to ban porn as it is to ban, women getting abortions.
Imagination.
But I do think it's getting more serious. And I see, like, I remember when I was in high school, the first time I heard about this like anti-porn thing, and like, I knew this one classmate who was really into it, and I was like, are you crazy? Like, you think porn, like what's wrong with you? Like, porn is totally normal. Even back in the day, like caveman would draw a naked other caveman and then probably jerk off to it. Or
imagine your caveman dad walks in and you're like trying to hide the carving. It's like, oh,
but that was like 10 years ago. Like I said, probably back in high school, 2014. Now it is really common. Like you'll hear people like JD Vance and stuff like that just talk about like, yeah, we got to ban porn. That
always reads to me like, it reads to me a lot like when people are obsessed with like when conservatives are obsessed with homophobia, they're gay. It's like when people are obsessed with porn, it's like they're jerking off too much. It's really just, it sounds really more like a YP than an MP.
Instead of an MP. And that's the case because they never just talk about it. Like they never just talk about banning like porn being a problem. They talk about porn addiction being a problem. And it's like, bro, most of us can just watch porn without getting addicted to it.
Addiction.
It's like, can you not just watch porn every once in a while and then like, do you have to be addicted to it? Like, what is wrong with you people? Because I feel like most people don't have that issue.
Well, speaking of people who develop psychosexual affinities and addictions, I did want to play this next clip because
is it Fetterman? Yes, I called it.
Woman asks John Fetterman, what's been on all of our minds, everybody? And I think you know what that's going to be. Let's listen.
I would love to understand where your affinity with the state of Israel actually comes from. Can you explain its origin to me?
Yes. Well, I mean, I can't say that there is an origin. I think it's really about, that's our ally. There's a special relationship. And now if anyone that studies history realize that if you aren't unwilling to stand and protect.
Look at how afraid he is to say that. He doesn't believe any of this shit. He immediately cowers because he knows that there's about 4 apparatuses that are going to scrutinize everything he says here, or the gravy train is over.
Yeah, I mean the origin was probably whatever the Mossad tape is, but yeah,
the Jewish community that can end in incredibly terrible, awful ways. That's what history has taught us. And now to anybody that doesn't follow the history and not even aware of a lot of it, like err on the side.
Just sub history with science, and he could be an anti-vaxxer. A lot of people who aren't familiar with the science, now if you don't pay attention to the science, I think what we should really be paying attention to is these scientists, and we have some specific scientists, and they've done reports with science.
Side of democracy, and that is the only democracy in the middle of that region. And I had the chance to visit there, and that's the kind of society that have the same kinds of values that we live and what we aspire to, especially ironic.
And it's like, you could literally make a similar argument about like Nazi Germany. Like, I went there and it was awesome, and the cars were cool, and the roads were paved, and society seemed clean and safe, and people were happy. Like, I'm sure, for the people that benefited from Nazi Germany, I'm sure society was awesome for them.
Yeah,
like, I'm sure it's a clean and well-run society. And people will unironically, they'll make that argument about Israel. They'll be like, yeah, that's the only decent country in that sea of savages. There's a country that I could go vacation in, as if that justifies their foreign policy.
Yeah, it's like they're like, oh yeah, I really vibe with like Leonardo DiCaprio from Django Unchained. It's just like, okay, cool guy. I think there's another clip too where he says like, I think, is there more to that clip?
There's more. Yeah, I just paused it so we could react.
Okay.
We can finish it out.
Progressives, especially for women and members of the LGBTQ communities. And that's why
you cannot get married to your same-sex partner in Israel.
So for me, it's an easy choice through this.
I am curious if on that trip you made to Israel, if you went to the West Bank at all and met any Palestinians there.
I didn't go.
Oh, weird.
West. I didn't. And then, so I didn't have unlimited time to see all the things that I wish I could, but I would love to go back. But
I guess what I'm asking is if you've tried to understand the other side of this conflict.
I've talked to a lot of people. I would visit and I would discuss members of the Arab and Muslim from Pennsylvania. I would have open dialogue. I entertain that. I would be happy to really understand
not getting
the other side. And I've been unable to, other than it's like, hey, if we can just stop fighting and attacking Israel.
Why does he talk like if you put, Andre the Giant and Mike Tyson into a DALL-E generator, and that's what came out the other side? I mean, it is crazy. This guy has lost like 1 million.
I mean,
IQ
to be fair, I think a part of the reason he can't talk is because he is still literally recovering from that stroke.
God, Jesus Christ.
I agree. The substance coming out of his mouth is about as low IQ as you can get. The reason why he can't articulate himself very well is, I think, still a medical issue, but yeah, I mean, what the fuck is this? This is crazy. You think he's genuinely passionate about Israel. He'll literally drape himself in an Israeli flag. You would think he'd have a bit more like passion when asked this question. Like, I support Israel because my Israeli neighbor growing up took care of me and imparted her Zionist values.
Anything, yeah.
Like, just come up with something. Come up with some bullshit excuse for why you have a connection to this insane ideology. But this is like, remember that movie, The Interview, with Seth Rogen, when they take them to
James Franco?
Yeah, when they go to North Korea, and then like they only get shown the like, oh look, actually North Korea is awesome. See, we have grocery stores. See, and like they don't show them any of the actual.
When Max Blumenthal goes to Venezuela.
Exactly. But it's like, come on, bro. Obviously, they're not going to show you the bad parts. What do you think? They're going to take you on a tour of their fucking apartheid state, of their genocide? Like, obviously not. It's
only 5 USD for this loaf of bread.
Yeah, and it's just like, is this like the energy that you really have for this? Like having like imposter syndrome live on the New York Times podcast. It's like he's like asking a girl out to prom, like on a date. He's so fucking nervous, and it's just like, I thought you had some balls, man. I thought you were the tough guy, but no, it's like you seem like you pee your pants when anyone asks you any questions about this.
Yeah, this is the other good part. We'll switch to this one.
Oh, you talking about the truck nuts?
I live directly across the street from the steel mill. And we were doing an event there for Clinton. And I asked the union president, I'm like, hey, where we are on Trump? And he's like, yeah, probably half or 60%, two-thirds are voting for him. And I was like, oh, that sucks. And then immediately there was a guy getting off, and he had a truck, and he had truck nuts on it. You know what truck nuts are?
Do I look like I know what truck nuts are?
It's balls hung on the hitch of a truck, and he honked and he was like, "Go Trump!" as he drove by.
Pause. Netanyahu has Fetterman's balls, real balls, on the back of his truck.
He put in a bid for Lance Armstrong's spare nut, but the war hadn't started yet. The money hadn't come in. He had to settle for Fetterman's. It was a bargain buy. Everybody thought Dr. Oz was going to win the Senate race.
I would be depressed if Lance Armstrong was like insanely pro-Israel. I'd be like, man, what were the bracelets about, dog?
Bro, did you see that? You don't follow combat sports, but for anybody who does, that dude Gordon Ryan, very famous Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner, came out and was like, "Oh, Hitler had a lot of great ideas." I was like, "It's always you guys. It's always you guys."
Yeah. So basically, he's saying that like Trump is looking like good in Pennsylvania or whatever. Is that essentially what he's saying? That like Trump is getting momentum because of the truck nuts
among the working class steelworkers. Yeah.
And you know what the working class steelworkers of Pennsylvania care the most about? Israel and defending Israel. That's their number one fucking issue. So I'm really glad you've done a lot to push the real issues over the last fucking year, Fetterman. That's what's so funny is like Fetterman and that Richie fucking Torres guy, they like both live in like very like poor, like working class like areas. And the number one thing they're always talking about is fucking Israel. It's so pathetic. And it's just like, with people like Richie, I feel like they are getting like a lot of AIPAC kickbacks. But with Fetterman, it's like,
Fetterman's a senator.
Are you getting anything from this man? Like, it's sad.
Well, there is a pretty, because Fetterman doesn't just represent a district. He's the senator of the state of Pennsylvania.
Right.
And from what I understand, there is a fairly sizable Jewish population in Pennsylvania. I think in like Pittsburgh and other areas.
Pittsburgh does have a heavily Jewish population.
It is possible that it is really just like a demographic play. Like, let's lock down this vote. We've seen people try that before, just pander to the Zionists or like, repeat Zionist talking points in an attempt to pander to the Jewish community. We've seen that from Andrew Yang in New York City when he famously, torpedoed his whole campaign to support Israel's attack on the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood in an attempt to pander to the heavily Jewish population of New York City.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Right. But, it could be something like that. It also could be the fact that John Fetterman is true. Like, I actually do put stock into the theory that the stroke literally took enough IQ points out of his brain that it turned him into a conservative. Like, not as a joke. Like, I'm not just saying that as a joke, but I actually genuinely think that sometimes really racist people that have really bad ideas, I actually think it can sometimes just be a result of mental illness or being a really stupid person. Like, we have to talk about that, but sometimes people are stupid. People have an IQ that's like 70 to 85 or something, and they just don't know any better than to believe what they're told and to repeat a bunch of racist bullshit conspiratorial garbage. And that's what John Fetterman does. Just when it comes to Israel, that's just an approved position because it's the one sponsored by our military and by our taxpayer. But I unironically think it's a possibility that, this guy had a fucking brain aneurysm, lost 20, 30 IQ points in the process, and now he's just a fucking moron.
Yeah, so the only thing we can do now is we can slowly implant him with, I guess, stem cells. We can regrow his brain. We can rebuild him. We can make him better. I think I'd like to turn him into some sort of android. But yeah, I just he's just annoying, and I hope his reign ends very very soon. I want to end on the Twitch adpocalypse thing because we've been covering that for a bit here. So. I don't even care about this fucking Destiny tweet. It's mainly the clip that I want to play here. So basically, all of Destiny is little rats and like his like army of divorced dads that like need to like hang out with their kids, I guess, but are too busy watching Twitch streams. They all have like brigaded ad companies. They've been talking to the managers. They've been emailing the CEOs at Twitch. They got a few Muslim or I think they got a variety of people that are pro-Palestine already banned on Twitch.
Yeah, Rogan got banned. A few other accounts got banned too.
Yeah. And now Twitch is actually facing kind of a big problem. I wanted to show two things from two people, Slasher and Devin Nash, who are both guys that kind of chronicle more of the business of streaming and like the business of being a content creator. And I think both of them had some interesting things to say. Let's start here with Slasher and his take.
Of all of why you're having to pull your ads is, the ADL did get involved. And the ADL did get involved because Dan has made fucking 3,000 tweets and has been personally getting on the brands and the advertisers' asses and sending screenshots and encouraging people to send screenshots. And my point is that all of this is being done because they don't like Hassan. It's not because they have a huge anti-Semitism issue with the platform. It's because they don't like Hassan, and that's fine. Just be honest with yourself. I don't think it was totally necessary to try to cause adpocalypse on Twitch because they don't like Hassan and they thought the trust and safety team made bad decisions. I feel like that is insane to me, and that is the entire thing that's happening. To me, this entire thing that's happened in the last week is not a real, true concern and cause for Jewish people within the company or for Jewish people on the platform or for anti-Semitism. It's all a bunch of drama, more so than anything, and personal beefs, which is then directly now impacting the content. And so that your conclusion and just getting rid of all of this actually is pretty sound.
Yeah, so Twitch is in a bad spot because essentially what's happened with Twitch is it used to be all about gaming, but now the biggest people in streaming are people that do like reactions and do like commentary. It's not just like playing a fun game, and that's how they've started to like have to deal with like more political and cultural issues. And on top of that, Twitch has never gotten good at serving ads and making Twitch profitable. Like Google and YouTube have such a strong, like decades long build up on serving ads. Whereas Twitch worked on a bunch of just dumb features and left the ads thing to the side. Maybe because like they were getting so much money from Amazon, they didn't care. But when they do like a targeted adpocalypse thing, like they're doing at Twitch, it actually can like hurt Twitch a lot more than it could with YouTube.
Yeah, fuck Twitch. I don't feel bad for Jeff Bezos, and I don't feel bad for any of these whiny assholes that are trying to get their entire platform run off the fucking relevancy map. I think if they want Twitch to go back to being a gaming platform, then it can go back to being a niche platform. It's not going to be mainstream. All these guys are just cannibalizing themselves, and they're all throwing a hissy fit. And the thing that they don't seem to grasp onto is that Destiny doesn't care about any of them. Destiny doesn't give a fuck what happens to Twitch. Destiny's been banned from Twitch for saying cracker and a bunch of other stupid shit that he did as an outrage shit poster, right? That's how he built up his entire thing. But now he has his own website, which is how Destiny makes his money. You guys think Destiny gives a fuck about the clips that he cuts for YouTube and gets the ad revenue from that? He doesn't give a fuck about that money. That's peanuts to him. That's just shit that he's going to write off on his taxes later. What really matters to Destiny is, look, 25,000 fuckers that have signed up on his website, maybe more than that. I don't know how many it is, but he's got a lot of people that pay him every month. There's not the insane fees that Twitch is taking out. There's not the insane fees that YouTube's taking out. So he's probably just as rich, if not richer than Hassan, because Hassan is just basically, anchored to Twitch. He signed that contract that you illuminated to us, Griffin. We were all like, why is Hassan streaming 8 hours a day? It's because he has to create a fuckload of content every week for Twitch to keep paying his bills. So the entire methodology of keeping people watching you all day in like the most passive state, I am giving you the least amount of engagement I can be giving you and still technically consuming your product. That's a horrible business model. You want people who are locked the fuck in. That's what made Joe Rogan relevant. That's what made him worth $100 million to Spotify, was you would lock the fuck in and listen to what he had to say for an hour and a half to 3 hours, right? I don't think Twitch ever has the ability to break into that. I think it's all boring, and we can get into this thread. Honestly, god damn it, it's not a thread. It's just a long post on Twitter that they ruined by me.
Yeah, you can pull it up. We won't have to read the whole thing, but yeah, this is Devin Nash here, and Devin Nash's solution is to ban all content, all political content, all ban all of it or none of it.
I was telling you about this on our walk.
Yeah. Honestly, I agree. Ban it all.
Yeah, I mean, well, I do think that he makes a point that it probably needs to be like one or the other here, because they banned Asmongold for being racist, and now a lot of people can say, oh, Hassan is anti-Semitic or whatever, so he should be banned. So they do need to like find a line with all this stuff and kind of decide like,
yeah,
they need to decide, I guess, yeah, like are they gonna let people talk about this stuff or not? But yeah, it's really sad that like it is all just kind of based around Hassan haters. Just like you as an adult man, like this is like your main thing. And I guess their argument is that he is the biggest creator, so that's why you can like obsess over him all the time and just like constantly be upset by him. But I don't know. It's like if Israel's your thing, it's like you guys won. Like there's no more Gaza. Like you're getting everything you want, and it's not enough. You need to take down this streamer too. It's just it's very pathetic.
And it, like I've said this a million times, but they act like Hassan is Jackson Hinkle or something, or one of the Candace Owens, one of these people who's just obviously latched on to the pro-Palestine movement because they're actually anti-Semitic. There's really very little, if any, evidence of Hassan being anti-Semitic. The most they have is like him making edgy jokes out of context, or him giggling at something out of context, when in reality he's giggling at not at the thing itself, but at what it represents. This
we've made edgier jokes on circle jerk.
Yeah, exactly. But again, it's really just edgy jokes. There's no actual evidence that Hassan is at all anti-Semitic. Again, they act like he is. And I just don't understand this because, like, Destiny and a lot of the people in Destiny space who have been leading this charge, their whole fucking business model is based on debating and friction and ideological disagreement. So it's like, why don't you handle this in that realm? Why don't you fucking debate this? I know Hassan doesn't necessarily want to debate Destiny, but can't you at least turn this into content? Why is the content just like a censorship brigade? Why is this like just the end goal to get someone censored? It makes no sense to me, even from a perspective of like, do you really want to live in that landscape after you create it? Do you really want to live in an internet landscape where no one can disagree with you? Isn't your whole business to debate people who do?
Yeah, I mean it's totally ridiculous, and it kind of just goes to show that like all the Destiny fans, they don't have any values. Their value is loving Destiny and liking that he's mean to people, and that is about it. Like there isn't this idea he wants to carve out. I'm actually going to do the sensible liberal politics because people are too extreme, and I'm trying to do a clear middle that's sensible, but that doesn't really play when your entire audience it just wants to see you draw blood any way possible. I just think it's pretty pathetic, and it's so funny that he is what's based around all of these things these outreach campaigns and stuff like that. This progressive victory thing that he does sometimes. I don't know. It's very odd. But what's most annoying is all the underlings that are doing all this for him, all these Destiny wannabes, his co-host Dan on his show, they're all just such backwash, such fucking Destiny backwash losers. Huh? Oh yeah, and the Hutch guy. Yeah, it's just no talent. It's just talentless. At least bring me something. If you're gonna be mean and edgy, be a person.
That's what I realized when I started watching that Hutch guy. I realized the only reason I ever gave Destiny any credit whatsoever is because he has a compelling personality. You take that away, and it's just the worst thing you've ever seen. It's the worst content imaginable. And that's what these Hutch people are. The Dan guy. It's if you take away Destiny's sense of humor, his ability to be, rhetorically interesting. If you take all that away, it's just the worst, most censorious, Karen, bitch ass fucking it's so annoying.
Yeah. Anyway, that about sums it up. Bitch ass Karen bullshit. Know what I mean? Anyway, yeah, it's true. The other thing I think about Destiny is he's at least capable of being a leader, right? And I mean that in the sense that he will be confident and stand behind his own ideas and his own analysis. Everybody else just looks for him to say something, or they look for Hassan to say something, and then they parrot that to eternity. It blew me away the other day. I don't mean to give Mike from PA a shout out, but fuck, dude. He was like, who do you have that's giving you these takes? I was like, what do you mean, you fucking idiot piece of shit? I've got my own fucking brain.
Wait, let's pull that up. Is that on Twitter?
It was pretty funny. Yeah, let me find it.
It was just crazy. I was like, what do you mean, dude? I was like, he was like, who are you listening to that's saying this? I was like, bro, I read the polls. I do my own homework. I don't just have some guy whose nuts I gargle. Okay, that would be crazy. I was like,
who's deleting comments in the chat? Who's doing that?
I'm not deleting any comments.
No one's deleting comments.
Maybe they're getting like auto modded. I'll have to look into that.
Sure they might be.
Is someone saying that there's comments deleted?
I'm seeing comments get deleted.
Don't read the haters.
Okay.
I've got my own mind. Oh yeah, I muted Mike from PA because I don't give a fuck what he has to say. But the race is clearly close. Who are you following that is telling you differently? I'm like, bro, I know how to read the polls. I know how to read the polls when they come out.
Okay. No, what's he responding? Oh, he's responding to your first tweet. I see it here. Yeah.
Yeah, because he says the race is. He says, "Bro." I was like, "What the hell is bro?"
He tried to little bro you.
Yeah, I was like, "You're such an idiot." This guy used to be in our replies all the time, telling us that we were haters and that AOC was the best thing that ever happened to the fucking congressional progressive movement.
He
vote for Kamala.
He had this awesome moment where I guess he was like involved in like an AOC campaign and he accidentally brought a conservative to like meet with her in the parking lot or something. It was awesome.
It was the Project Veritas thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he accidentally got Project Veritas AOC, which is actually radical leftism. That's my politics actually to stick Veritas on politicians.
No, he looked so embarrassed too when he realized. He was like, "Fuck!" He thought he was so cool.
While we're talking about underlings, like it is sad that like Hassan has a bunch of underlings that he just like never interacts with, and like Twitch probably should have more big like politics channels on it outside of Hassan just for like diversity. But yeah, I see these people who are like the Hassan Abi waiting rooms and stuff like that, and they just like stream right before Hassan, and then like it's all just like playing Hassan clips, and it's just like
fuck Twitch, bro.
Okay, yeah, like maybe
your own drum, pals.
It's a garbage. And even before, people now say like, "Oh, Twitch is all just Hassan shit," but like back when I originally checked out Twitch, it was like right after the invasion of Ukraine, and all anyone wanted to talk about on there was like the Dylan Burns kind of shit, where it's like Slava Ukraine, let's do a 3-hour-long panel about how necessary it is to fund Ukraine and shit. It's like I've always hated Twitch.
Yeah. So either the Azov battalion gets to stream or no one gets to stream. That's the final. That's the final solution.
Slava Ukraine.
Slava Ukraine. Bye bye.
Thank you all.
We'll see you next week.
Peace, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to this channel.
Yep. See you next week. Bye bye.